All right, so let's review the challenge. The first question was a bit weird, so let me skip it. I may come back to it later on if I got time. What about the second one? It's interesting because that question was added to the backlog recently, maybe 1 month ago or so. So we have a function. We want to see if any key was pressed or not. In other words, we want to know if we pass any argument. Yeah. So for instance, number 2, is that something? Yes. If we don't pass any argument, is that anything? No. Empty string? No. We are, to be precise, checking if that argument is truthy or not. The solution was very simple. The only thing you need to do is, if I got a value, return true. Else, return false. That's it. And if we run it, yeah, that was it. Why? Why is that? Because JavaScript evaluates whether this argument, this expression, to be more precise, is truthy or falsy. So some examples. Number 7, is it truthy or falsy? That's correct. And what about -7? Is that truthy or falsy? Wrong. -7 is considered truthy in JavaScript. And what about -1? That's correct, yeah. All the numbers in JavaScript are considered truthy, except, can you figure out where is the exception? That's correct, my friend. 0 is the only number that evaluates to false in JavaScript. Likewise, talking about strings, if I got hello, does it evaluate as truthy or as falsy? That's correct. And what if I got an empty string? That's correct. Yeah, you see. And what if I got true? Is that true or false? And if I got false? No, wrong. False is false. Yeah, false is false, right? And finally, let's talk about arrays. What if I got an array with one string hello? Is that true or false? Correct. And if I got an array of an empty string? Wrong. That's true. And if I got an empty array, true or false? Wrong. Arrays are always truthy. And the reason is an array, whenever you declare a new array with the square brackets, you are essentially creating a new address in memory. That's why arrays are, technically speaking, always truthy, because an array is always a new address in memory. Yeah. So that, of course it is, yeah. And the same rule applies to objects. So if I got an object hello Peter, that's truthy. But if I clear it, if I do something like that, that's valid. I can do that. Let user, what I'm doing. Let user equals, that's an empty object, but that's, first of all, of course, still valid. And on top of that, that's considered true in JavaScript. Okay? So that's the way it works. Guys, did you came across the ternary operator in JavaScript? So the ternary operator is a slightly different way of dealing with an if-else statement. Yeah, if value, return true, else return false. So these 5 lines of code can be written doing return value, then look at the question mark, that means then true, else with a colon, false. So this expression, this ternary expression, is equivalent to these 5 lines of code. Yeah? This is called a ternary operator because there are 3 parts. We got the condition, then we got what do we return if the condition is truthy, and what do we return if the condition is false. Yeah. That's correct. Yeah. Yeah, there are some similarities between JavaScript and Python. So this is one of them. We may talk at some point about lambda expressions if you already know them, man. So we got something similar to lambda expressions in JavaScript as well, but that's a different story. Cool. Any question, guys? No? Cool. All right. So let me have a look to the next one. See how interesting it is. Let me leave this one to the end. Let me check question number. That's a good one. I know that many people don't really enjoy playing with dates, but these are still important. So it's good to know at least the basics of dates. Let's pay attention to the problem. In this particular exercise, we have two arguments. First of all, a date object. That's a special structure in JavaScript. And then we got some sort of offset. So we want, given that date, for instance, the 1st of October of 2023 at 11 a.m., we want to add 30 minutes. So what are the resulting minutes? 30. Why 30? Because if we got the time at 11 p.m. straight, 11 a.m. plus 30 minutes, yeah, the resulting number of minutes is 30. That's easy peasy. The second example is a bit more complicated. Still on the same day, 1st of October of 2023, the time is set at 25 past 11. So if we add 20 minutes to 25 past 11, the resulting minutes is 45. Yeah? And likewise, the last one is the most complicated one. If we are 5 to noon, so it's 55 past 11, and we add 10 minutes, well, technically speaking, it's 65 past 11, but that doesn't make any sense from a human point of view. 65 past 11 is 5 past 12. Do you agree on that? Okay, so that's pretty much what we are expected to build. So two arguments. First of all, I got the date, and I got minutes to add or something like that, or minutes to be added. I don't really mind. Yeah? It's a number of minutes. Cool. So do you know, guys, how to get the current minutes of a date in JavaScript? Probably not. I'll tell you. It's date.getMinutes. That's pretty, I think that's fairly decent. It's fairly expected, yeah? Dates.getMinutes. So this is the getter, getMinutes. Likewise, there is a setter, date. Anyone? How do you set some minutes into a date? Fantastic, set minutes. Yeah? So dates are extremely weird when talking about JavaScript. You can easily smell that dates were created in the 90s, where there wasn't a big community of observers looking after the quality of the new releases of JavaScript. Because there are some really weird oddities when talking about dates. But thankfully, dealing with minutes is not one of them. So dates.setMinutes. So let me set the minutes, something like that. Yeah, so I got a date. All right, and now let's change the minutes. Eventually, we want to return the new minutes. So simply at the end, return date.getMinutes. I'll tell you something, guys. This is not going to work. Let's try to analyze why. If I run it, well, first of all, we are not returning anything. So probably I did something fundamentally wrong. Return function, get new minutes. Oh, that's a bit weird. So there is a syntax error, get new minutes. There is a typo somewhere. Date.set minutes. All right. I didn't call it minutes. I call it minutes to add. Yeah, that was my fault. I renamed the variable. However, this is not going to work. That was the expected result. So looking at the solution, guys, pay attention to that line. Oops, you return 20. Oops, you return 10. Can you figure out what's... I'm not asking you why, technically speaking, it doesn't work. So from a human point of view, what are we returning and what should we return? Exactly. Brilliant, Matt. Man. That's it. Yeah. So we're setting the time to 20 past 11 on the second assertion, but that's not what we want. We don't want to set the time to 20 past 11. We want to add 20 minutes, as you said, to that date time. So the only thing we have to do is, hey guy, what's the new minutes? Give me the current minutes and then add the offset. You get my point? Yeah, and that's it. If I run it, you get confetti time. So that's pretty much it. Yep. Any questions? No? Cool. Let's do one more, guys, before calling it a day. Oh, that was a very good question. I love it. So when talking about JavaScript, it's important to note that the most important data structure is the array. Yeah, the array is a variable surrounded by square brackets, as you can see here. Why this is the most important one? Because starting from 2011, most of the new upgrades on the language, most of the new features supported by JavaScript are about adding more capabilities to arrays, and that's still happening today. So for instance, there is a new version of JavaScript every year. Last one released in July 2019, they added new methods to, for instance, to flatten arrays. If you got a nested array, so now there is a built-in method to flatten the array without using any external tool or any complex algorithm. Yeah. So yeah, without going that far or to that level of complexity, it's important to know that once you deal with complex algorithms, you'll be very happy transforming your data into an array, because with arrays we can loop, we can iterate, we can filter, we can find, we can reverse, we can blah 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 blah. Yeah, we can run very complex operations on array. That's a good example. Look, we have one argument, which is a list of people. Yeah, politician, no, not politician, whatever, a list of people. Yeah, so what we want to do is we want to iterate over each element of the list. So for instance, the first list has 3 elements. So we want to iterate over these 3 elements. And then for each element, we want to transform. Yeah, we have as the input an array of 3 objects. And as the output, we have an array of 3 strings, as you can see here. Yeah. So whenever you want to transform an array of data into another array, you want to iterate one by one, and for each element you want to transform it, there is a very cool method called, I'll show you, map. Map receives an array of X elements and returns a new array of X elements. So map doesn't add any new elements, it doesn't remove elements, it just goes one after the other and transform them. So the way it works here is, let me create the argument, let's call it people. So then we can write people.map, and then let's pay attention to the syntax, because the syntax is a bit special. The syntax is, A, please, for each person, pay attention, guys, to this syntax. That means this is a function that is going to run. So for each person, what do we want to return? The person, by default, is an object with first name and last name. So in reality, what we want to return is person.firstname and person.lastname. You see? So we transform the input, which is an object, and we transform each object. You see, guys, are you familiar with the template literals notation? You see the backticks? That's the way you can combine multiple strings. If you are not familiar with that, if you prefer, even though I wouldn't recommend you that, but you can always write person.firstname plus space person.lastname. That's the same. Yeah. So when you, sorry, say it again. The best practice here is, personally, I will suggest you to use what we call the template literal. The template literal means using backticks. You know, backticks is that weird symbol. If you have a Mac, That symbol is at the bottom left side of your keyboard. If you have a Windows machine, it's on the top left. And now the syntax is, you use dollar curly brace notation to specify the variables, so person.first name, and then you can do whatever you want in between, right? That will obviously that won't work. But if I run it, you see, you return Michael, Jordan, Kobe, Brian, yeah. So yes, that's correct. There's a space in between. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's correct. Yeah. So yeah, you can see how simple this is. Technically speaking, there are even simpler ways of solving the problem, but I don't want to make it more complicated. Sometimes I got the feeling that some video tutorials, they try to present you a very optimal solution, and probably they are right. Yeah, what the code they write is absolutely perfect, but sometimes performance goes against readability. And I think at this stage of the journey, it's more important to understand the algorithms rather than try to optimize them to a point of no sense. Yeah. So personally, I will be quite happy if you understand the approach. So once again, you got the array, people, and then on that array, using map, you can transform each particular element of the list into something else. Yeah. So map is very useful. For instance, if you have an array of strings and you want to convert all the characters to capital letters, so you can do that. Or if you want, for every element of the list, you want to calculate something, I don't know, things like that. Yeah. So whenever you have an array, an input array, and you want to return an output array with the same number of elements, transforming them one by one, map is your friend. You will see how important map is when talking about React. Actually, task number, don't remember on top of my head at the moment, maybe task number 13, 14 of CodeFlix, you will start using map a lot to display the list of TV shows dynamically. Yeah. And yeah, so do you have any questions, guys? Yeah. Yep. Yep. That's a really good question. Unfortunately, the answer is not that simple. But to keep it as much simple as possible, let's say that map creates a new array. In other words, if I got an array of fruits, apple, orange, and banana, and I do array.map fruit, and then I do return fruit.to uppercase, eventually this snippet will return apple, orange, and banana into a new array. So we'll have two arrays, the original array here and the new array returned by the map function. Anything else, guys? I'm going to cool. Thank you, guys. I'm going to share this snippet on Slack, so if you want to play a bit with it, yeah, you know how to proceed. So if you don't have any question, I think we can leave it here. So thank you for your time. Please stay safe. That's the most important thing these days. We'll see you soon. Take care, guys. Bye.